with children, I, like many of you, have a vested interest in learning as much as I can about Common Core. And that is why we gather here this morning. The reason we're here today is, of course, we're a women's group, so of course we have a lot of mothers, and we know, obviously, a lot of mothers. And I was recently approached by a mother that was absolutely up in arms about Common Core. And quite honestly, I was caught completely off guard. I'd never heard it, didn't know anything about it. So in my ignorance, I asked her to explain what it was that, upset her so much about it. And in her explanation, and I will paraphrase, she told me that it forces our children to learn Islam. It supports things like anti-Semitism. It is curriculum that is forced on us by the federal government. And like Obamacare, it's going to record our children's private information for clandestine purposes. Well, my question to any of you in this room would be, who would like that? I mean, I wouldn't like that. And it was at that point that I indicated that I was not educated enough on the subject. And so what I did as a responsible parent is I started to read. And I read a lot. I mean, over the last probably 3 weeks, I've read just about everything there is out there that's available, especially online, to read about Common Core, both in the state of Tennessee and federally. And I don't know that we've spent enough time educating our parents, and like me, I didn't know anything about it. So after asking many, many questions, I believe she had not substantiated the claims she had regurgitated to me either. As Republicans, one of the guiding principles is to gather information in all forms with open minds and formulate informed decisions. And that is our aim here today, with a specific focus on what's specifically happening here in the state of Tennessee. Our National RNC committee man provided me with the following statement. I am pleased to learn that Sumner County Republican women are exploring the issues of Common Core standards. In a free society, it is important that citizens keep themselves informed. That means hearing both sides of the issues. While the RNC did pass a resolution on the subject, that does not preclude debate, discussion, or information on the subject. I encourage you to study the facts and reach your own judgment. All the best, John L. Ryder, General Counsel, National Committee Man for the state of Tennessee. We have tried today to invite people from within our state and county that have a working knowledge of the standards from different vantage points. We do not claim here to have all the answers. I would like to take an opportunity first to introduce Deborah Maggart, one of our longest standing members in our women's organization, as well as the executive director of Compass, to address this group. I am proud to say that the Sumner County Republican Women's Organization is a Compass partner. Because of Deborah's legislative experience, I have asked her to cover the timeline from Tennessee's initial involvement with Common Core to present day, as many here and in our community do not understand that the standards initiatives started in the state many years ago to reverse a declining trend in academic achievement and outcomes within the state.
Thank you, Joanne. I appreciate that nice introduction. This is simply a timeline that we're having passed out amongst you all about our involvement at the state of Tennessee's level, and just a little timeline to show you when it began and what happened and how those things happened. As you can see, when George Bush was president in 2007 to 2008, Tennessee joins the American Diploma Project Network after the United States Chamber of Commerce awards our state an F for truth in advertising about our school standards. Tennessee receives an F from the United States Chamber of Commerce in rigor and approves the Tennessee Diploma Project standards. Then in 2009, Governor Phil Bredesen and State Education Commissioner Tim Webb, they joined the Common Core Standards Initiative. Then in 2010, we were awarded the Race to the Top funds, and that was $550 million in a grant that Tennessee won in Race to the Top. And also during that time, the legislature, we had to change some of the ways we did things here in Tennessee. We had to expand charter schools. We had to put the teacher evaluations process into place to be eligible for that award. Then you can see in the school year of 2010-2011, the State Board of Education signs an agreement to adopt the Common Core standards. The Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, the PARCC, and you'll hear that referred to as PARC, they launch and design that phase. And then our students take the new TCAP alignment to the new standards, and our scores here in Tennessee take a hit. Now, we heard from a lot of parents as legislators. The parents were upset. They thought their kids were an A+, and they found out that maybe their child was really a C. So we had to do a lot of PR, talk to a lot of parents back then about that we had actually been, because our standards were not in the proper alignment, our kids were not doing as well as we all thought. Then you can see that in the school year of 2011 to 2012, the PARC development begins, and then our TCAP scores begin to rise. And then the K-12 implementation of math and ELA Common Core standards took place. In the school year of 2012-13, the grades 3 through 8, the partial implementation of math standards, half of our districts started using the ELA. Then our state trains 200 teachers to coach peers in their home districts. In the school year 2013 through 14, the PARC pilot began and there was field testing. The state of Tennessee trained 700 more teachers to coach peers. About 25,000 teachers enroll in optional Common Core training scheduled for the summer. Districts began to fully implement the new standards and adopt their own curriculum and textbooks to meet them. And all grades, math, and ELA standards are implemented. And then coming up in the 2014-2015 school year, our students will be tested in math and language arts online using the instrument that Tennessee educators helped design right here in Tennessee, the PARC test. And it replaces the TCAP, the Tennessee Comprehensive Assessment Program. So I just wanted people to have a timeline where you could see, I've heard a lot of information out there, this just started and that kind of thing. And I just thought it was important for everyone to understand that our state has been involved on the local level and the state level implementing these new standards. So thank you.
The Tennessee Constitution addresses education like this. The state of Tennessee recognizes the inherent value of education and encourages its support. The General Assembly shall provide for the maintenance, support, and eligibility standards of a system of free public schools. Foremost, let's agree one thing in here that we all can agree on. We cannot accept dumbed-down expectations of Tennessee students. My organization, the 6,000 member, over 6,000 professional educators of Tennessee, believes that our students and our teachers can meet any challenge and surpass their peers in countries around the world by embracing higher and clearer standards. We have rejected minimal accountability. 4 years ago, and Deborah did a great job of going through the history of that, and that's very important that you have that history. 4 years ago, Tennessee made an important decision in 2009 to raise expectations for our students, and we joined 45 other states and districts in the District of Columbia in adopting the Common Core state standards. The initiative is state-driven, that's the key point, voluntary, and truly bipartisan. Sadly, as full implementation of the new standards nears, myths and misinformation are threatening to derail the progress. I tell everyone who asks my opinion on Common Core, they are just a beginning in Tennessee. I told Commissioner Huffman, if this is where we're at in 5 years, I'm not with you. I'm moving forward. We need to continue to raise the standards in our state. They are not the be-all, end-all, but rather a first step to moving the ball forward in our state by raising our standards. Side-by-side comparisons of our current standards with Common Core standards, and I believe you brought those here today. All you need to do is come up here, if you don't believe this, come and look at these standards. They are more in-depth, and they bring more rigor than anything that previously existed in our state. Everybody talks about everything about Common Core, but they never talk about the standards. Common Core Standards is not a draconian initiative by the federal government, and as long as the relationship is voluntary, it cannot lead to usurpation of state autonomy. Fear-mongering, whether it's on the left or on the right, is often due to inaccuracies or misstatements offered by some who have a misdirected interest in the success of Tennessee public education, or who may not fully understand the concepts. Most of the debates I have with people are over curriculum or textbooks. They don't get that part. Tennessee must have an education system that leads to rising student achievement.
I have no dog in the hunt, okay? Huntington Learning Center is going to be successful whether Common Core happens or it doesn't happen. In some ways, quite honestly, we'll probably be more successful if it doesn't happen. But I got into this business because I care about kids and I care about education, and that's the reason I'm here. Part of my job is to make sure that I'm current on what's going on. So I've done a tremendous amount of research, and if it had just been me, I wouldn't be comfortable standing up here speaking in front of you. But I know there's a team of folks back at my corporate office who each have impeccable education backgrounds that have been working on this, not for the last 2 or 3 months, but since before 2010. And they've explored the Common Core standards, taken a look at them versus the current standards, and across the board they vehemently say that they consider them to be more rigorous. As a parent of 2 children myself, as parents and grandparents out here, it's hard to argue against more rigorous standards for our children. It's like if you're going to build a house. If you go to build a house, the very first thing you have to do is find out what the codes are in your area, and you have to abide by the codes. That's it. Beyond that, you can build the house any way you want to build the house. Common Core standards are very similar to that. What they're doing is they're setting a standard. They're saying these are the things we want for your children to be able to do after a certain school year in your local school district. We're not telling you how to do it. We're not giving you prescribed curriculum that you have to use. We're simply saying these are the things we want your child to be able to do. I brought with me a couple of pages from the PARCC assessment. So we've talked a lot about the PARCC assessment. As someone who works with students in supplemental education, I love to see this. A sample question says, Part A, what is one main idea of how animals live? From the passage that you just read. And you're given choices A, B, C, and D. Okay, so a student, maybe they're paying attention, maybe they're not paying attention. They circle A, and A is the correct answer. We don't exactly know how they arrived at that answer. So Part B says, which detail from the article best supports your answer in Part A? So you're now having to demonstrate, I didn't just get the right answer, let me show you how I got the right answer. And through Common Core, there are going to be opportunities, not just simply from a multiple choice test, but from writing to explain yourself. So you don't get quite as much credit for simply getting the right answer. What we call that in my business is mastery. Once you've mastered material, you own it.
This is the part that I love. Evidence is required in writing. I don't want to hear how you feel about it, because most of them feel great because they've got an A, B, C, D, or choice. I want you to prove to me why you did that and how you got your answer, and I want it in writing.
For me, the exciting thing about the Common Core Leadership Council, it's directors of schools, principals, people that work in central offices from across the state. Clint Satterfield from Trousdale County is on it. What we do is we get together and the state shows us what they're trying to do, and we help them communicate that, but they listen to us. It's been amazing to me to be an assistant principal on this and have the Deputy Commissioner of Education say, Scott, what do you think about this? And I share my opinion. Or just, Emily Barton called me and she said, how are the CRA tests going, the math tests that were given to 3rd to 8th graders this year? She said, how's it going? What are some of the problems? And I told her, and 2 weeks later, there's a memo that comes out from the state, and they changed, mid-course tweaked some of the policy to make it more workable for us at the local school.
For years and years, we gave TCAP a standardized test. Never once did my daughter come home and go, man, we took TCAP, it was great. It was A and B and C, and then there was some more A, and then another B, and then another C. It was just the most best test I've ever taken. She never did that. We gave the CRA this year, and she's like, wow, you know, we took this really weird math test today. It wasn't multiple choice at all. Some of the things on there I didn't really know. But it was okay, because my teacher told me it's all right if you don't know it, write it out. Come to the best answer you can get to, and it's okay if you don't use something that you've learned. You use your critical thought and thinking skills to get to that answer, and you'll get some credit for some part of that if you just write it out and show us what you know. Math teachers for years have been saying this. Show me your writing. Show me your work so I can help you learn. They don't say, give me the A or the B or the C, and we're going to stop there. That's not the process. We have digressed so much into that that it has become detrimental to the students in Tennessee. We have fallen behind other states. For the life of my education career, we have never risen above that 40th mark in national standards. We have always operated between that 50 and that 40 in our state ranking. That's ridiculous. We have great people in this state. We have great teachers in the state, and we have great students in this state. There is no reason that our kids cannot perform at the same or above a level of a student in any other state. And the Common Core standards, we get bogged down in the politics. We get bogged down in all the other issues that may come up of it. But the God's honest truth of it, when you go into the school building and you see these teachers that are teaching in a mode of critical thought instead of deduction to get to the best multiple choice answer, it is a different world that we will live in as we get older. The generation that's coming up will prosper in a different way.
As your state Republican Executive Committee woman, I want you to know that the state of Tennessee Republican Party has not taken a stand on this issue. Kind of like the death penalty, there's several things that are just really non-political, and this ought to be one of them. The RNC has made this resolution. It is a non-binding, it's intermediary resolution. It is not in any way binding us to any side either way. One side was presented at the meeting this year. The other side was not given any opportunity to make their stand. There was a whole slew of resolutions that kind of went in and were rubber stamped through. Not a good way to do business, but it keeps it out of the newspapers fairly well anyway. But I do want you to know that there's good people on both sides. We need to not make this a political issue. When it comes down to the children, I have a child that I taught at home, and I think he's brilliant. I'm just but it was because he had special needs himself that he could slow down, and until we could master a situation, we could do it that way at home. He couldn't do that in the public school system. He couldn't do that in the private school system, and he couldn't do it in the Christian school system. So homeschooling was the best education for him, in our opinion. These standards are wonderful, but we need to take the politics out of it. I have been political all my life, and this is a situation that just needs to stay apolitical.
One question. Now, I know I've heard this on Facebook and on the internet. People are concerned about the fact that they believe that Common Core is going to do data mining on our students, and I know JC talked about that briefly in his remarks, but I know that is a concern people have, and if someone on the panel would like to address that, I know that this is a process that can be tweaked. Certainly, if there's something that we shouldn't do, I don't believe the state of Tennessee is going to do that, but if somebody would like to
Why don't you first go into exactly what data mining is?
Well, data mining is basically taking the information. For example, if you knew a kid was very low in math, they would be targeted, and maybe you got 25 mail pieces sent to him to go to Huntington or somewhere. If somebody was to do that, and there's absolutely no indication that nobody's ever done that, but I would tell the state to put people's mind at ease. Go ahead and do. Nathan Deal did that, and go ahead and say. And I think the commissioner, because I've talked to them about that, they said their answer, and this is where I'm just blunt. I don't think they understand the political side of this, because I think that this is just pure politics. This isn't about education; it's politics. So you get it, and I think Deborah, you know that. And so so what they see is the opportunity. So the commissioner and those guys don't say, well, the federal law prohibits it. And I said, that's our whole problem. We don't trust the federal law. We don't trust the feds. So I think the state goes the extra mile and puts a security blanket on there and says, look, we're absolutely prohibited. Like I said, make it a felony, 5 years in prison, chop off your left hand. No, that's another country. But anyways, but we can do something that to really put some teeth into it and give people, because it's never and like he said, I mean, they're absolutely the most transparent. I mean, they're open and they talk to us, and they're the most transparent, and to a fault, because they say something and it gets misinterpreted and they get blasted.
Is there a federal program that certain states are working with in order to track student information currently?
Not that I'm aware
I know
of.
it's not Tennessee.
Not that I'm aware of, but they do check, and I don't think any of us have a problem to say, you know, that our students are 41st in math. I mean, we have that problem that they're 41st in math, but we want to know where they rank in comparison to other states, so we know how we can improve it. I think that's a good thing, but I think that the downside to it is, I mean, we want to make sure that individual data is not exchanged. Yes, ma'am.
Has do you all know, to your knowledge, if any local school system in Tennessee or district has committed to turning any data over to an organization that collects data called InBlue? Have you heard of that?
Called what?
InBlue? I've never heard.
InBlue is what it was.
Yeah,
InBlue.
I've never heard of that.
I mean, I'll say this locally. If you come as one of the things that we deal with a lot is who we can give report cards to. You know, if there's a divorce situation, I have to go and check the child's permanent record if a non-custodial parent requests a report card to see if I can give a report card to. I mean, at the school side, we are incredibly cautious about student privacy. I think that, you know, on one hand, I think JC's right. It has to be a state level legislative action, because data mining is very real, not just in education, but you know, if you read, I mean, it's happening all the time. I read there was an article a couple months ago in the New York Times Magazine about how a father found out his daughter was pregnant because Target profiles people to see when to send skin lotion ads to them. And Target predicted that his 16-year-old daughter was pregnant, and he threw a fit and then found out 2 weeks later she was pregnant. It's scary times that we live in. You know, the data mining is going on everywhere, and I think JC's right. I think that it's something that we can be proactive about legislatively. I think it'd be a good thing for us to push for. I'm speaking as Scott Langford, not as an employee of Sumner County Schools or anything else. But I think it's a real concern, but I think it's one that it's not really anything we can deal with in the school system. I guess we could probably maybe come up with a board policy about it, but I think we do a pretty good job on our side. But I appreciate your concern.
One question I have, my father was in education for multiple years, teacher, principal. He was my physics teacher in high school, which made me sweat bullets, I'll tell you. But this is the type of teaching he did. We learned to critical think, and I applaud you for this. My main question is, though, back then, when I was in school, we had smaller classroom sizes. And I think it's imperative to have smaller classrooms if you're going to teach this kind of critical thinking. How does this play into your plan with Comcor? Classroom size.
Well, Tennessee has mandated classroom sizes. I mean, I've been here 15 years, and it's always been smaller classroom sizes. When I first started teaching in South Carolina as a 5th grade teacher, I had 36 to 40 students in my classroom, and it wasn't an issue with me because, you know, we did groups, we did everything. Tennessee, in the lower levels where we're laying those foundations, the maximum class size is 21. And there are assistants in the lower levels that are consistently in those classrooms helping those teachers, helping assist the students. So I think Tennessee has done a really good job of protecting that small class size. With my sons that are, my 7th grade son, and he is middle school in Tennessee, his classroom sizes are still about that 21 to 30. So I just hope that we protect that in Tennessee and know that that is an issue that we need to stay on top of.
I would really encourage you, because in some of our more rural counties, that's not the case. And I really think to make this work, which would be beautiful if it can work, we've got to keep those classes small. And how do we do that with the money that we have in Tennessee for this? So please address this at some point. I'm sure. Absolutely.